to resolve various problems on the project. So these are all real cases from real testers. So let's get started. What is software quality? Quality consists of three main pillars. These are quality fundamentals, quality management process, and practical considerations. So the first box about fundamentals includes culture and ethics of software engineering, importance and cost of quality models and quality specifications, and quality improvement. So this is a kind of quality management issues that are set up at the moment when the company is started. I think it's hard to reach out to this level. Quality management process, next building block. There's a quality assurance, verification and validation, assessment and audit. Currently, these practices exist all across the world in all companies. And the last building block, which can be influenced by us, there's a quality requirements, defect characteristics, quality management techniques, and quality quantification. So all these practical considerations, this is what we work on. So when do we get the quality criteria from the production viewpoint? What the business wants and the product we develop, it should look like the product that we intended it to be. But very often quality requirements, quality criteria are not clearly set by the production and what is required at each production stage. Very often engineers don't know about that, and it's difficult for them to talk to the business. So first is SLA. What can we get from SLA? We can get initial quality criteria. This is what the business is committed to. What do we need to have in terms of quality? If it's a medical product, it will be a lot of unit tests, etc. Or if we develop a game, the requirements will be different. Timeline for corrections and initial defect severity. We can have a look at our standards, major, minor, blocker, but usually the severity definitions are quite vague. We can take it, but we need to adapt it to the context, to the specific product. What else? The next item is release requirements. So how do we define release requirements? We need to determine release cycle, how much releases we have and when. Quality criteria for every build. Usually we pay attention to the quality of build before sales and the final build, I would say. Because they have deadlines, they try to hit these deadlines, etc. But what I mean that if we have beta version or a release version, at each intermediate phase we need to check the build quality. What ruins the release cycle is the concept of change request and bug. Some say it's a bug or it's a defect. It looks like a defect, but it's CR when you check it. When you have clear delineation, it resolves a lot of problems. And the fourth aspect, these are acceptance criteria. First of all, the acceptance criteria depend on the type of acceptance, internal acceptance or not, or the company where you work in a product company or outsource company. It's more important for the outsource companies because they work for certain clients, outsourcing for them, and they need to do acceptance based on the conditions that the client has, because bugs might depend not on you but on some third teams, etc. And paying attention to this aspect helps the company a lot. Another point is handling defects. So we have a bug where sometimes we don't distinguish between priorities or severity of bugs, and this is our task to determine the gradation of defects. It's a priority for business, of course, but it might be a different case. And severity. We need to determine how we prioritize the defects, because for us it might be a minor bug, but it might be a critical bug for the business. So we need to check our defects and grade them so that all the team is on the same page. Reproducibility of defects and everything related for the pool of devices. Those who work with mobile devices, there's a great variety of devices, and managers want to have an app that would be working on a Chinese Android version. But for that we need to check statistics, because statistics is available for different devices. And then we need to identify the defect life cycle, how we close the defects. Well, here I have a bonus that might be useful for our cases. It's an example of quality criteria and defect grading. Critical, minor, major defects based on the standard definitions, but you can check out and you can adapt it to your projects, both in Russian and English. Next point. Quality is the glue that glues together different intermediate results of our work. Many people neglect this, but if we have a high quality of inputs or intermediate work results, it would result in a good quality of the final product, because everyone does the way they understand this, the developers, the testers, etc. It might create problems. So, definition of done and definition of ready should be clear. Clear for each department, for analysts, for developers, because quality assurance should exist in each unit. How developers develop, etc. Definition of done. What might it include? Some results of the development tests, full described documentation, completed review of the code, and some specific details for further testing. Another point is metrics. So this will not be useful in our today's cases, but it might be useful in the real life. How we measure the quality or the quality efficiency. There are product quality metrics These are all the product metrics that we know. At the same time, they don't apply to the production process. The process quality indicators and the service quality metrics. You might be interested in these metrics. You might read about that. And I will give you the reference for that. Defect density, for example, regression coefficient, reopen defects rate, average cost to fix a defect, number of defects in a specific code region. Maybe it's a strange matrix. Regression coefficient, we use it. Number of defects in a specific code region, well, it's strange, but sometimes it might be useful, the number of defects per developer. So there's a bonus about how to calculate all of the above metrics. So the metrics that I personally use most often is the number of defects missed, the defect findability, in order to understand the quality of our testing, how good we are in testing, and in terms of compliance with the SLA, the third one. So defect findability, this is the ratio of defects at the production phase and the testing phase. We also can study about the number of defects that go to the production later on. And the third one that I mentioned, which is for us very important, is compliance with the SLA. Because there might be product defects scoped by a large backlog closed by that, but it does not mean that we have high quality. This is an example of the defects: in time, not in time, missed, etc. Another metric is the root cause audit, to identify the root causes of the defects. I try to analyze all the bugs and the root causes. There might be planning mistakes and other issues related to that. It allows us to understand whether the bug is a technical mistake, technical issue, or the process issue. Before we get down to our workshop and cases, it is worth mentioning, it's one of the main principles of the early testing. It's the workflow, its requirements, development stage, stabilization, and then release. Testing falls here in this phase. But what do we have at the end of the day with this kind of workflow? If test happens at the very end, we don't have any time to fix, to respond, and it's a problem. If we do testing in parallel to the development process, if we participate at each and every phase, then we have time to respond and to fix any possible problems. Yeah, sorry for the technical issue that I have here. So if we do testing at each of the phases, we have time to respond and to do a stressless release and not overloading our testers and the production team. So, to summarize, it is worth mentioning that quality consists of 4 important stages. Quality planning means that we need to agree upon what the quality is, what is good for our product, what is not good. After that, there's a quality assurance process. This is the maintenance of the quality that we planned and agreed upon. Then comes quality control. And finally, quality enhancement, because we need to improve our quality on a continuous basis. In order to implement these quality assurance phases, what needs to be done? First of all, we need to understand the purpose and the pains, the problems that you resolve. We need to relieve the pain of the related teams and roles. We need to analyze and convey the goal. What is the goal? What is the ultimate goal? Why do we do this? And then we integrate improvements into the process and show all the intermediate results. It's sometimes easy to agree inside the team, but sometimes it is hard to convey the idea to the business, to the managers. That's why it's the easiest way is to show the results. And you take over the control from the beginning. So when the process is well set up, then you distribute the responsibilities, you share it with managers, with developers, testers, analysts, etc. It seems simple, but you, of course, need to get the feedback on a continuous basis. There are different techniques whatsoever, and feedback plays an important role. Now we get down to the practical part.
Before I'm going to split you into groups, I guess my henchmen, Vanya and Dima, will help me with that. I will tell you about the masterclass. You'll all get a case. Cases are all different. How did we come up with those cases? Those were real people from projects, and they were answering a set of 8 main questions that we had. First, what is the company type? Is it outsource or main staff? Release cycle structure in the company? Are there any quality criteria for releases or some kind of quality assessment indicators? What is the main claims from business to QA or the quality of release? Because often these claims can be different. Also, for us, it is important how the whole process builds, how analysts operate. What is the most painful thing for testers, and how is the testing process arranged? What procedures, intermediary results they have? Also, what is the flow of defects, and who is responsible for production bugs, if any? In other words, how all of this is going to be arranged. Now, my guys are going to divide you into groups, 5 minutes to each group to work on the case. Then we'll have a small 5-minute Q&A session. Then for 20 minutes, you'll have to make some improvements, be it technical or organizational. And one person from each group is going to report on the results, and then we'll have a general discussion. That would be it. Okay, guys, help me please with that. So are you prepared to work on some cases now? Actually, I remember now, we also have online audience viewing us. Naturally, it would be very hard for them to work interactively with us, but there is a QR code, which is a link to a group in Telegram, where we have listed all the cases already. They have 4 cases because of the number of people. We're looking only at 3 of those. And when we're going to make reports about cases, whoever took the case would just speak up like this, like case 1. If there are any improvements that you can come up with that we are not going to voice here, please print them in the chat box online. We can read them out. Seryoja, why are you all the way in the back? Come forward, please. Seryoja, it's not going to work like this. I want a divorce. Of course, you can invent a name for your team to make it easy. Okay, team number 1, approach me, please. Okay, now you'll get printouts both in English and in Russian. Read it out. You have whatever clarification questions you have, speak up. Can we put up the questions asked there? Okay, guys from online, hopefully you have already used the QR code link. And the questions that we had, yes, the link to the chat can be found in the Telegram chat of the conference. You can also use it from Telegram. Dear online participants, you don't need to split into groups because it would be very hard to implement for you. Choose your own case, think about your answers about it. Unfortunately, we won't be able to moderate any clarification questions. That's why we're going to put all your recommendations on the case and publish them in the chat box. And then for each of the recommendations, you'll get a personalized answer from Marina or from us with Andre. Yes, you just write to us what was the number of the case, set of recommendations, or we can provide general comments on it. Okay, 5 minutes is on. Okay, find a comfortable seat for you. You need this flip chart page just to print something on it afterwards. If there are any questions from the authors, of course, we can answer them.
Раздатка, а самих, как у ребят задавал вопросы, они только в презентации, поэтому пока оставим. Если они есть. Может, нет. У меня тоже есть не на все вопросы. Смотри, во-первых, конечная цель.
Look, the final objective for you is to read the case. If you have some problems understanding it, you can ask clarification questions. Finally, you see that not everything is perfect with the process. And you think about the improvements that you can introduce into this process. I don't know, build some defect criteria or redistribute the teams. Fire the manager, I don't know. After which, what?
Даты релизов. Могут быть и печатные.
There might be some typos as well, so I'm sorry for those. When I printed them out, I found 4 typos. One of them is quite obscene, actually, but it was unintentional. In English, everything is okay, but in Russian, there was a small obscene typo. I guess it is your case with analytics that you can find it. But it has been recorded from your words, the words of engineers.
Если есть уточняющие вопросы, как раз у нас...
Should you have any clarification questions, go ahead. We still have time for them. 5 minutes to be exact. What is the case number that you have? What kind of question do you have? Yes, it's CI. That was yet another typo. No, this is not a clarification question. You're just being a smart aleck here. Is everything clear, guys? Громкость. Okay, guys. One thing that might prove helpful to you, I've just retrieved everything that is going through all those cases that I believe might be helpful in finding a solution here. In all those cases are missing any quality criteria from the production. We only have business-based criteria. We don't have any specific DODs among the teams. In many of the cases, we don't have early testing principle defects, and often there is no defect management culture. So these are the frequent errors that we can see everywhere in all the cases. And we have about 15 minutes for the discussion, and then we'll have a report. I remind you that only one person from the team will report. And another friendly reminder that you shouldn't simply name the problem, but you need to come up with a solution. Because the problems have just named the problems. What we need to hear from you is what would you recommend the production and business side to improve or rectify this problem?
I'd like to remind that we have 5 minutes. Please select one spokesperson from your team who will present the results. 5 minutes left. So 2 minutes left. Who wanna be first? Yeah, it's all teams have different. Okay. So waiting list. Let's start with the first one, maybe. Will be the spokesperson. I will check my answers to the questions. Alex, you have 1 minute. So, who will be your spokesperson? So, here's our leader. So, there should be one spokesperson from the group. Okay, guys, let's finish the discussion and let's listen to the first case. You may read out the case, what were the problems there, and then your solutions. Yeah, they won't use the flip chart. Okay, first case, large data product in a large bank. We have a very old project with the analytics and time release. So the problems are as follows. I don't know, shall I read out the text or what? There's a product that is done by a number of teams, QA, development team, analysts team, and managers. The process is a waterfall. It's or waterfall that hasn't been transformed into agile. So first there's certain documentation, then development, then testing. They complain on the testers that they're testing quite slowly. Their requirements are changed in the middle of the workflow or the process, even during regression testing. On the positive side is that they have integration with other teams. Analysts are talking to testers in such a way that the testers are approving documentation, analysts are approving test cases, and this affects the testing. And when they receive bugs from clients, these bugs are processed by those who are not busy. If it's not an urgent bug or non-urgent bug, I don't know how they define this. Or maybe depending on the client, large client or small client. Okay, we were hired by this company to conduct an audit and provide the solution. And being good auditors, we identify the following problems. The first problem is that the tasks not necessarily have approved requirements for the development. Usually people discuss the task, they elaborate the set of requirements and then start the development. In this case, there were no clear requirements, and requirements changed in the middle of the process, and with the requirements changed, they don't extend the timeline for development. This is the first problem. We also believe we revealed that QA is approving documents, but it's not a big problem, I think, now. We also do see, despite they have integration, they don't have proper communication between experts and teams. QA is involved at quite a late stage, just 1 week before the release, and we all know the situations when the release is on Friday, and QA is waiting on Friday while developers are improving their code, etc. So, bad planning before the release. The manager is going team by team, collecting tasks. They have patches. They plan a feature in a product, and this feature is not ready. Instead of this feature, they create a patch. So poor assessment of the tasks for the team, and analysts are responsible for the quality because they influence the contents of the testing process. They might delete certain kinds of tests, reject them, and suggest others. Well, maybe it's working to a certain extent, but not always, I would say, and not always analysts could be good designers of testing activities. Again, QA is involved at a late stage. They don't have enough time for testing. It means they have no automation. Okay, solutions. Yeah, please put it down, because we want to put it down so that we put this information into the presentation. So we are certified agile trainers, and we tell them, hey guys, you need more Scrum, more Agile. Well, but these are quite vague. Yeah, be specific, please. Okay, yeah. I have it written down here. Okay, the takeaways or the tips. We recommend before each release. Well, and now I understand it's kind of process. You need to plan carefully the release, and you need to invite all the stakeholders for this meeting. You sit together, you outline the tasks for the new release. After that, you describe each of the tasks. You need to prepare acceptance criteria for each of the tasks. You need the DoD criteria, prepare DoD criteria, and assess this task. How much time will be needed, etc. So we'll give you a guy who will help you first time. We also do see that your requirements change and it slows down the process, so that means that requirements should not change in the middle. If something changes, you need either to create a new task and extend time, or you just extend the time for this task and remove some other features from the release because you will not be able to do it in time. We do see that QAs are dealing with documentation. It's an additional workload on QA. That's why please take into account this time for documentation testing. And as my colleague mentioned, documentation might come to the QA at the very end of the feature production. This should not be the case, of course. We do see that you have integration, but this integration is not enough. So you need to ensure good communication in the team. You need to discuss changes, reveal it as early as possible. You need to have demo to reduce time for testing and for regression. So you need to reveal bugs and fix it as early as possible. So demo is a good tool for that. And again, communication. Maybe you should split up into the project teams or feature teams so that you sit in one room. Yeah, but if they work remotely, okay, how can they communicate if they don't sit in one room? Huh? So when there are different departments, usually communication is organized through the head of the department, etc. And it, of course, extends time required. So you're complaining about lengthy testing by testers. We can recommend the following. So please involve QA as early as possible into the workflow and the process. So the developers need to show the features to QA as early as possible. It will help a lot. Take into account the time needed for testing. How? How do they do this? Well, multiply by 2, I don't know, the time. Or time tracker. What do you suggest? Well, if you want to manage this, you need to measure. You cannot manage something that you cannot, that you haven't yet measured. Yeah, it's a nice response from a manager, I would say. During regression, you need to use the corridor testing. This is when you sit down and start analyzing the testing. All the team, like managers, cleaners, the security guys, etc. And you start testing your application, clicking here and there. By doing this, you involve more beta testers, and you can have a look at this from different angles. And of course, you need to add automation. So currently, automation is not as expansive as it used to be. Record and play applications might be used for some of the cases, and it will work well. You need to redistribute the powers from the analysts so that the whole team bears responsibility for the quality. There should be business tests, there should be technical tests. That's it. Okay. Thank you. You have a couple of interesting tips. I agree with you in general. Well, it's questionable about measuring and judging. First to measure and then decide how to extend the time. Okay. What I would like to add here, great that you paid attention to planning. It's good to introduce planning or grooming. As far as work with analysts is concerned, I would delineate CR and bug. And what do we do with that? CR is change request. Ah, I see. Review the requirements. Yes, they have this. Due to the fact that it's not clear whether it's critical or non-critical defect and who deals with that, there's a problem in this company with the defect management in general. So I would check how they deal with bugs, maybe create a template for bugs to identify critical and non-critical bugs and how to deal with them. What bugs can be left or what cannot be left.
Well, you've mentioned the integration with other departments and other things. We need to connect them to the acceptance. It's typical to the corridor testing that is used by all. Well, as far as the corridor testing is concerned, everybody starts to, be outraged. But IPO is saying that we need to get a release as soon as possible, connect them to acceptance, and say that the whole team is responsible for the quality. I would have added this, and also considering that they have analysts, but it can change quickly, and because in change requests they have DODs, and to give away missions and tasks is quite easy. You can get it quite easily. Automation, of course, is cool, but it's unlikely that we can fix it soon enough. Are there any additions? Maybe my colleagues have something to add. I still believe that the root problem is the interaction between departments. As soon as you get good interfacing with the departments, you can continue quite well. And with any small changes, you can always tell what is the difference with the previous time frame, and you will never have this time lag problem. And with a new deadline, nobody knows how it can work. Yes, that's a very good remark. I agree with you. I would have identified two problems. First, the planning errors, where we have the gap between business and production. Okay, we plug that gap. As far as integration is concerned, you're never going to set it up quickly enough. After that, of course, it would be easy to solve any problem. Psychologically, you are right that you can start by engaging the development, good planning on all the members of the team. And one thing where I was a bit taken aback, everybody is measuring it the same way, some estimates. Yes, as far as estimates are concerned, I would have said that you can multiply it by 2 as a rule of thumb. As far as estimates are concerned, what I didn't mention here is you can add transparency. Usually testers, when we look at them, we say that they don't know anything. Maybe screen recorders don't know, God forbid. It doesn't matter what kind of tasks you're handling. We always have development tasks. You need to show what tasks are done by testers. For instance, first you need to do the requirements review, what kind of activities are owned by QAs, because they just press 10 buttons and roll it out for release. I would have added transparency here. As far as this test case is concerned, maybe some changes can come up later, but business requires immediately. Yes, I agree, and this task is correctly said, but here we just need to interact with QA and change the deadline and analytics as well. Very often, I didn't specify this case. When I use this case, their task holders are regular POs. When I open up Jira, we always know what the project is all about, what we're working on. But if there is no visualization to show who is doing what, no tasks, it's hard for you to put together a team. That's what I'm talking about when I speak about transparency. This tasks as an activity, who is doing what, and communication, of course. Yes, everything would have been solved if we could have started it openly. Yes, I agree. Are there any additional questions? We can talk about it forever. Okay, thank you guys. Case number 2. Let's give them a round of applause. I can tell you right away, if you put everything here on papers, I'm going to snap a photo of that to put it into the presentation. Is it mine? Thank you very much. Yes, you got the mic. Okay, guys, very briefly describe the case. About this case, it's game design, game dev, with some frequent updates, double release, some intermediate updates, and weekly updates, and incremental updates every month and a half. Every week, minor changes, month and a half, we roll out big releases or big updates. The quality criteria, the level of satisfaction, number of active users daily. Our task is to increase the number of users and the level of satisfaction. Out of the challenges, because of the frequent updates, weekly updates, we cannot keep up with all the bugs at the proper level. Speak into the mic, please. Okay. I don't feel comfortable speaking like that. Anyway, eventually we have a situation when game designers want to get new features, QAs want to improve the quality control, and others don't want us from their backs. QA are responsible for everything, both for the client and the server, and they're controlling the testing quality and localization. At the same time, the problem is that we have big zoo of devices and we cannot cover all of them. I mean QA. Analytics-wise, there is a total mess because we use 4 or even 5 different analytical systems, which is a huge problem. Also, there is a problem with communication because we have multicultural company and a team, also QA, and thus the quality of recorded bugs is going down. Multicultural, when you're saying, you mean languages, countries? Yes. One phrase which is understood to a Russian speaker, translated word for word into English, becomes very vague and unclear to an American, for instance. Okay, and the smoke is added to the added up content. We have some manual testing also, but during a major update there is some regression that the whole QA team is involved in. Nobody's doing any planning whatsoever, which is wrong. Also, I guess I've started speaking about problems already. Also, we record it in Jira, but if it is after release, it is both support and beta tester. You can put it in Jira. Anybody, actually. So everybody has access to Jira, which is a global problem for us, because if everybody has access to Jira, then we can get in Jira a lot of trash that we'll have to sort out later on. And as a result, we are losing a lot of time. So that was a brief story about the current realities. What can we suggest? Okay, tell us about the main chief challenges that you see there and how you go about them. First challenge is the planning challenge, because in 1 week's time it's impossible to roll out an update. In a week's time you can just agree on some requirements. If it is a minor thing, you can have a deal about requirements, that to write it up, to fix it, and then verify and validate it, and then have time for return bugs verification. For stabilization, yes, it would be very unfeasible. One of the recommendations from our side would be to at least decrease the frequency of release cycle from weekly to maybe bi-weekly frequency. We expect to plan the following release cycle beforehand. In other words, we put together three, team leads from the development and DevGam development team lead, and they agree with each other what we want to see in the next sprint. Not in the beginning, but eventually. So classically, if you make it bi-weekly, in the last week of the first release, we are planning the release of the second release, yes. So it's not happening this way as yet. Next. Yes, also we didn't see any CI/CD processes, which can also increase the speed of testing and the speed of development as well, or the release time. Next, we also see problems in communication. QA requests something else and others want us to get from their back. So basically we need to decide on the deadlines, who is going to do what. At the same time, we have to be learn to work in the same boat, and that should be a company policy. How are you going to promote it when you come in and say, make my release cycle bi-weekly instead of weekly, and let's see eye to eye on the issue. Okay, you told me it sounds good. I come to the manager and tell him everything will be great if you increase the release cycle to the bi-weekly, but I have already a whole schedule and timeline a year ahead. I'm going to lose millions or billions. What else? How can we optimize to make the story good for everyone? Yes, we can do this, but we have US bug that decreases our profits. Okay. What can you suggest? Okay, we cannot shift it to bi-weekly. I suggest to temporarily do it bi-weekly, but by each quarter I have deadlines. By end of the quarter I need to have all these features. I'm prepared to do something as a business. We're role-playing here, you understand. I'm not prepared for that. I'm prepared to give you a concession, but not here. And instead, with this shift case, really, business is more likely to tell you that starting from the next financial year, say, next financial period, but in this moment, in the next release, we're going to bi-weekly cycle. Okay, by the end of the year, in December, we're going to start the bi-weekly cycle. But what can I do now, right here and now? I need to do something right here and now to improve the work and situation and performance. Increase the resources, give me more money maybe, or you're going to work for free, but I'm going to hire 2 more developers, okay? What else can be done? Well, planning can improve the situation, at least partially. What kind of planning? We cannot shift it to bi-weekly anyway. As of next week, we're going to start to do it on Friday, at least at the level. Out of the experience of team leads, they understand the estimates. We build estimates exactly for 1 week's time. At the same time, we'll give them some more time to fix bugs. And this way, on Sunday, whenever we are issuing a release, you're doing it on Sundays? Great. And I'm going to pay you double time for your work on weekends? No. We can finish testing on Friday, but we're going to release it on Sunday. Sunday, okay, and then I will have to pay double to the support for the work on Sundays. You don't have CI/CD. We already have CI/CD. We are recommending it. Okay, we don't have DevOps. When was it when I issued money for DevOps, and then CI/CD is lacking some funds? If you want to have higher profit in longer term, again, longer term is another thing. I understand your story as an engineer. We want it. You come to me and tell me we wanted DevOps, but we don't have budget for this until the end of the year. What do we do now? We are going to lose money then. Well, features are rolled out, maybe not of good quality, but I'm delivering those features which are supposed to be delivered. Okay, maybe their quality can be different, can vary, but I'm doing this work, and I get funding for the subsequent years. But our schedule, our key metrics are going down, yes, but then the whole development is going down if I'm not going to cure these problems. Okay, what other suggestions do you have? Then I will later tell you about the planning and everything else. Okay, we decide on the deadlines and planning. What else do we do? We're still not fitting within this parameters. Quite possibly, yes. Whatever you generate, tell us about this. Okay, we're going to discard what we physically don't have time for. This way, we're going to get rid of. There's no other way around. Well, I'll think about it, how the business is going to discard everything that we don't need. If we don't have time for this, then we are not going to release low-quality product. We are going to cut down on features. Okay, move on. What else do we have? As far as analytics is concerned, because analytics is collected in 3 different systems, we cannot, our manager cannot look at the schedule and understand what else needs to be done, what brings us most of the profit, and prioritize features accordingly. Also, the working language is English for us. The working language is English, and we need to learn how to speak the same language, and maybe sign in our personnel to additional training courses, and maybe so that maybe some joint courses where they could talk to each other, understand each other better. Also, if we have problems with the bug report quality, we need to learn how to write bugs in the same language together. Now about Jira, I mentioned Jira. Jira should provide clearance only to the developers, not via Telegram. Jira must have a setup integration with the email so that notifications come to Slack or to email. Head of QA decides on the level of criticality it shouldn't be done like this, because those people who start the bug fixing should understand how critical it is and be responsible for that eventually. Next, QA on duty. I have no comment about this because I like it. Why not? Everyone is going to play the role of a release manager. Why not have a QA on duty? It's somebody from the team who is rotating and are QA on duty. It is the way it is. So we need a person who has enough communication skills with the customer, but doesn't have skills how to write it and to maintain defect management, because the bug must have an owner, and it's for sure not support or QA on duty. Well, I mentioned about workflow and bugs. Yes. We do not have any role division here, or rather roles are divided, but we don't know who is responsible for what. You mean we need to prepare job descriptions? Not job description. I rather suggest that we split server part, client part, and localization and testing, because if we are going to waste seniors' time on testing localization, it's wrong. Also, if we optimize costs, we can entrust testing and localization to an outsource. For instance, if it is an Indian localization that we do, we outsource an Indian company. Are you going to pay them from your salary or what? We're going to spend this money anyway. I don't have money for this. I have a special budget until the end of the year. Where can I get more funds to hire Indians or Americans or Canadians? If you cannot maintain it, then it doesn't make sense to localize it in the first place. Okay. If we are not doing this, then we decide not to do this. If we decide for localization, first it will be less expensive, high quality, because an Indian, there are many languages, and it's better professionals to do it in their own native language. Okay, prioritization of devices. We have analytics. We distribute it according to who brings us more revenues. If we are not differentiating priority-wise about different devices, it's done randomly at the moment because our testers are not instructed about this, and we're telling them, for instance, our American market brings us 90% of our revenues, then most of our time is dedicated to testing American devices. The most popular and up-to-date devices, and we prioritize them accordingly.
Yeah, I agree with that. We have one more problem, bags that are easy to fix, but they stay there for months, and it affects the number of active users, because there are competitors who don't have such bugs. That's why we need to dedicate 1 week to fix those bugs. Then, due to better planning, we will try to avoid and prevent these bugs. Okay, my comments. Creating statistics for device distribution. This is great. This matches with mine. And we know what are the devices. iPhone 8. And the owner has iPhone 13, and we need to plan in our backlog other devices as well. This is like requirements for the products that they work with these or that operating systems. Windows like that, Mac, etc. Well, as far as release cycle is concerned, my comment is that nobody will increase the release cycle by 2 weeks, and they will ask you what can be done. In a point-like manner, you didn't finish or you didn't read carefully the case. Each release is a minor release to fix, to release small features, etc. The full release is 1.5 months. 1.5 months is quite a long release cycle, and there might be a problem. There's 1 week before the end of the release, we do regress testing. I would divide the team, the bigger team, into smaller feature teams, areas, yeah, like in banks, legal entities, individuals, etc. And inside this 1.5 months cycle, we can do minor releases, 2-week releases. 1-week releases are for small patches. We are considering a longer release cycle, 1.5 months, 3 sprints. And inside the sprints, we can have smaller tasks, and as a result of this 2-week sprints, we can assemble a patch, and then only integration will be required. We will have stable pieces of software. So you need to try the cases, yeah, it might be good or not. You need to continuously scrabble bags. This procedure should be done on a continuous basis. Another important thing is that I would introduce reporting, template reporting. And since these are different languages, there might be a template for checklists and test cases, because description should be concise and short. Yeah, I meant to write this when I mentioned the training, so that they talk the same language over there on the same page, actually. Okay, and the last thing, training or motivation for better English skills. So, for example, guys are asking for an English teacher, but we don't have money as a company for that. You can motivate them somehow. For example, if people improve their English level, you can provide them with some memorabilia or some minor prizes, or you might organize weekly screenings of English films in the company and watch these films or movies all together. We also asked a product owner, and product owner might have a distorted opinion. Yes, there are no right or wrong answers, but please bear in mind that expenditures matter for the company. In order to introduce all your suggestions, how much money it will require. If we introduce these, our expenditures increase by 10%, and our efficiency increases by 100%, for example. Yeah. Questions? No questions? Thank you. Case number 3, Sergey will be the spokesperson, right? few words about the team. We have a music streaming service. Front-end lead expert was questioned about the problems. We have releases, mandatory release on Thursday and a non-mandatory release on Tuesday. We have monkey testing indicator, the relapses with release. Today I'm 1 week, but we want to do it more quickly. Every day. Oh, maybe. The majority of bugs and mistakes occur on the stage of monkey testing. And anti-blocking of advertisement that cannot be switched off. Screenshot testing is not possible. And one QA team is responsible for web and mobile versions with simultaneous releases. The team doesn't have analysts, but they have a lot of product guys who don't want to talk to anyone, and you need to drag information from them. There's automated regression testing that doesn't work well, and pre-production monkey testing. There's a quick patch plus minimum tests, and tester, developer, tester. This is the approach. All who detect bugs, they can fix them. After retest and confirmation of criticality, they continue the workflow. So we have only one opinion of the front-end specialist. Well, problems are clear. Speak about solutions, please. Yeah, the whole case is one big problem. You have the most juicy and difficult case to solve. So, let's start with item number 1, to fix the time when we submit our release for testing. Yeah, we need to clearly set the time. And it's better to do it not like Petya will do this, but let the robot do the CI to implement all the assembly. Since they have a long monkey testing flow the whole day, if you receive the assembly on Wednesday, you have little time for Thursday release. So please specify the deadline. We do what we do by that time, what we So we decided not to deal with the quality criteria because we don't have an owner, we don't have QA, and the number of setbacks in releases, they exist. That's why we decided to focus on better automation. So the team has very often changes in visual content, and they installed anti-blockers of advertisement, and this prevents from screenshot testing, we advise them to switch this feature off for the testing environment that would allow them to test the visual content. And to be user-oriented, they can keep this function, check the use cases after the screenshot tests, and leave this function there. And manually check how it will work with the ad bans, banners, etc. So the automation has small coverage, and they reveal more bugs during manual testing. That means that they need to extend the automation coverage. And the team works under the Git flow. They have one branch for the development. It's like landfill, all being put together. So they need to do some intermediate tests. If they pass this, then they submit this more or less final code to the main branch. We believe that there should be different teams for mobile and web versions, because people need to switch between projects now, and people might not like testing mobile versions, for example. So there should be different teams for that, because their releases are simultaneous at the same time. Well, it depends whether these teams need to communicate or not. So we asked him about the tasks and how these tasks get to the team. There's a product expert who sets the task, and the development starts. It's a bit complex approach. There are two options. An expensive option to hire an analyst. And this analyst would help the team to plan the task. If they don't have money and are not able to hire an analyst, they need to have meetings with some project expert who will deal with that and somehow plan the tasks. We mentioned that anyone is detecting bugs. Of course, we don't have the full picture, but we suggest that QA dedicates some time, once a day, once a week, to check through the bugs, prioritize them, and create a template for other people. And wanted to shift to the left. We didn't manage to ask the front lead whether they use Scrum or not. Let's do it with the definition Freddy, so that the developer goes through this acceptance criteria before submitting software to the test. And we can also envisage some DoD as well. That's all from our side. Thank you. It's a good example when you have a person who deals with the managers and can easily work with the product experts.
Это и хотелось показать, потому что зачастую производство предлагает те же самые вещи, как у нас было в
Well,
предыдущем кейсе, но недостаточно.
the production offers the same, but they're not too much persuasive, or the cases are too energy and labor consuming. I don't have much to add. The comment about monkey testing in this case, why they mention that the minor releases are expensive. So they give a business scenario and they click that and they pay money for that. And different releases are of different quality, maybe. I would suggest to abandon monkey testers and hire someone into your team, maybe a junior even. DoD, documentation, I agree with that. Well, a lot of changes and a lot of content, it's not necessarily critical defects there. We need to involve the product expert. Here, product experts might also check changes in the content and updates in the content. We can try this because we are testers. We cannot, persuade them. Yeah, but you need somehow try to agree. It's the same like putting a product guy to test with you. Separate mobile and web parts. This should be different teams. The testing would be much clearer in this case. And you might swap these teams, 1 month they do web, the other month they do mobile. It will help with the documentation review, etc.
Acceptance testing, and yes, you mentioned that we can cut down all those locators on behalf of CI, but maybe you can develop dedicated locators not to mess it up. That's all I wanted to say. Maybe there are some comments from the floor. Well, here I agree, but we have what we have. Okay, guys. Thanks a lot, all of you. Here on this slide you can find all my contact details. A huge request to you from me. Everybody is collecting feedback. It's my first master class about team building done publicly. Please give me some feedback. Tell me whether it was fun or not, whether I should continue with that. That's all I had to share with you. Thank you.